what the today is?
I know what you're going to say.
Dave, do you want to jump in right away?
No, no. You go ahead, Dan. It's your show.
Okay, I got this. I can do this. 1 year ago today, and I didn't know this. I wish I could take credit for this, but 1 year ago today, what happened, folks? What happened? Put it in the chat.
Yeah.
China put a tariff on Canadian canola. How big was that? How big was that, Dave? It was a big one.
75.8%.
75.8%. We're going to be extremely precise on today's event. All the numbers we're given and all the predictions are going to be 110%.
Yeah, that's right.
That's a little bit of a thing. If we look back a year ago, where were we? What was canola a year ago? And what has happened in between? Well, we can't even count the Trump tweets. A little bit of war, a little bit of fertilizer and fuel bumps, uncertainty, a volatility. But guess what? Guess what? Things are looking a little bit better, but how much better? We want to talk about that today. Because if you look at the price of fuel and fertilizer, and the fact that the market's now shrugging off world events and saying, well, we're going to keep going here. Things are looking fairly bullish-ish for producers. It's exciting times in Western Canadian cropping. And think about this, 2 bushels an acre off the Canadian canola average is about 1 million tons.
You're supposed to do this when you say that down.
1 million tons. I got too much hair to do that. Yeah. I have them wear like one of those acting bald caps.
Yeah.
That's how thin the margin is between a comfortable year and a rationing year. And right now, the entire market's debating or arguing about whether those bushels are out there. Good morning. My name is Dan Aberhart. I run Growing the Future Productions, Western Canadian Agriculture's foremost live briefing platform and its foremost AI training accelerators. And I have a student on the call today who's just starting that, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're going to enhance him with artificial intelligence, as though he needed more intelligence, folks.
Yeah. Yeah. This is actually real here, by the way.
This is the real Dave. Yeah, the AI version of him is actually waiting for the USDA report with bated breath.
Yeah, that's right.
3 things we want to get out of this next hour, my dear audience, and welcome. A read on what's going on with the canola crop this year. Where is it at? Just so happens we have somebody who's got a distribution network all across Western Canada getting their boots yellow, looking at them. I guess the yellow part's over, but we're going to get a crop read from someone who farms and someone who has distribution across Western Canada, looking at crops. Number 2, what's going on the demand side here? What do the experts know that we don't know? And then 3, what are we going to do next? What's the rule for selling or holding? What's going to change that call? So we are live on YouTube, my friends. Please like and subscribe and click on that notification bell so you can go live with us at any time. And as always, please put your questions and comments into the chat. What I love about this panel is that a good friend of ours who's mutual acquaintance is he'll tell you he's in the 1% of top farmers. And those are the people that are using experts like this to make decisions, including, but not limited to, Darren Sander from Crop Aid Nutrition. Welcome, Darren.
Thank you. Good morning.
Yeah. And so Darren is a client. His farm is a client of these experts, and Darren's going to give us a crop read here shortly. But on the call also we have Dave Norris. And the funny part is, I don't know, should I read out the part about your bio where you worked with Bayer? Do we want to go there?
That's a long time ago.
It is. That's kind of what came up, and I had a smile. But and then there was people that I've been talking to. That, oh no, I know Dave from the Bayer days. But you've been around. How many decades advising farms out of Norris Crop Consulting now? Just a few.
13
decades.
13 decades.
1.3 decades. A regular Gandalf here. Like, wow.
That's right. Yeah, over 10. We had our 10-year party a couple years ago. How's that sound?
Okay, well, I had it 30 years advising, but
Oh,
maybe that's
oh, sorry. Well, total in the market over 30. Yeah, 33 at total, but 13 doing the grain market consulting.
you're being way too humble here.
Yeah.
The rest of the numbers on the webinar will be accurate, except for how many years Dave's been in
Yes.
the market.
Yes.
And
When I
Todd,
went, I
go
was going
ahead.
to say, when I went to university was 1988. So
Okay.
I remember that year, and lots of people do.
It was
If you know, you
memorable
know. Yes,
because
if
you
you
were
know, you
there.
know. Because it
Okay,
was
well, some of those
dry.
stories for later.
Yeah.
And also Todd at IXL Innovations. You and Dave called the 2020 crop before Statistics Canada got there. That's the famous thing that comes up about you on the internet. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
I love these bios this morning. Well, let's get this. Oh, Judy Burt. Judy Burt is saying, really, Dave, you remember 1988? Well, it was unforgettable.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, it sounds like we got some stories between you and some folks in the audience, which is fun. Obviously, small world here in agriculture, and a lot of you know each other. But let's make this a good one. Let's pick the brains of these folks. So much money on the line, so much wealth on the line here today. Big bucks. When the market's moving up and down, it makes a huge difference. But I think one of the main things we're thinking about going into this conversation is, where is this crop at? And it was maybe a little bit of a princess crop, lots of moisture in lots of places up front, and then things dried up a little bit. Honey, I shrunk the crop-ish a little bit. But Darren, I think you have a really unique perspective, not only as a producer, but you got this network of distributors out there crop checking your soil health products. What are you seeing on the farm, and what is your network seeing on the ground for how big the crop could have been and now is?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good areas yet this year that are still wet, still getting good rains lately. There's of course the areas that are way too wet, and then there's a big chunk, including my area down by Rosetown, where we had a Cinderella crop coming, say, towards the end of June, early July. We haven't really had a rain since July 5th. And I think a lot of guys are in that boat where the big crop's gone. We're going to still have a very nice crop, but the big monster crop is probably not there anymore. Hopefully, we can get some kind of a finishing rain in these areas that are now on the bit of the dry side so we can get some quality and bushel weight in the cereals anyways.
How is your canola looking, folks? Let us know in the poll there. And your durum, how you thinking about what's your durum looking like there, Darren?
The derm stand is still really nice. It's probably coming in a little faster than we expected, but it is on the dry side. Again, it's a big stand. It started out with a fantastic start. So, in order to have not skinny light grain and low quality, we're going to need some kind of moisture to have some plump, heavy, wet grain to fill those heads. So
And what's
that's
the
kind of where we're
conversations
sitting right
been
now.
with folks in your distribution network? Because you guys touch all three prairie provinces, well, and into the States and Ontario, to be fair. But what's the general feeling about production out there this year?
General feeling is positive. I mean, most guys have pretty nice crops. There's a lot of areas that have a crop this year that haven't had in quite some time. So it's very positive. Grain prices are looking strong. I think the attitude is really good out there. Again, there's a fair amount of guys looking for a finishing rain, or maybe that's a bit late in some cases, but generally very positive.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, Dave and Todd, what are you guys seeing out there? Dave, did you want to give a little bit of your synopsis on, because you talked to your producers are all over Western Canada too, right?
Yeah. Primarily Saskatchewan, but but they can be all over. And we talk to guys that cover other areas. What I would just say is, like, we just tend to try to focus on, is the crop bigger or smaller? You don't want to be necessarily exact on it. And I would say, like Darren mentioned a month ago, the crop was looking in many areas like they were going to have as good as last year, because last year was a phenomenal crop for a lot of guys. But early on, like when you get such a huge area, when you got eastern Saskatchewan and northeast Saskatchewan and Lloydminster to Edmonton that are so wet, and you're taking acres off the book right away because they lost acres. Just talked to a farmer a couple of days ago from Tisdale that had 400-acre fields that he was only going to probably harvest 200 acres of that field. I mean, that's 100% lost production on those acres. And, so just talking to guys, and is your crop bigger or smaller? Most of them are saying smaller. I did a lot of driving around the country here this last week, went to Greenwater Lake, and the crops just look for the most part, weaker than I would say in those areas. Yeah, there's some areas that are beautiful and they've got some great crops, but I'm thinking it's trending smaller than what people think than last year.
Todd, what's your take?
Last year I had some growers that had phenomenal yields. They're probably not there this year. I've got other growers that came up light last year, thought they had a better crop than they ended up with, that this year think maybe they might outdo last year. But I agree with Dave. There's probably areas in Alberta that lost acres 100%. I think the big thing is going to be how we finish here. Guys don't, with the new seed availability out there of shatterproof, they'll let that canola come in. I was talking to a few guys last week that had they had the old traditional varieties, they would probably be out swathing and they would be losing yield. So, if we get a late rain, maybe there's some improvements in some areas, but overall, I don't think we have the crop we had last year.
Yeah, production keeps advancing for sure. Judy Burt is saying, agree, Dave. Lentils averages in areas are 12 to 20.
Ouch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Too much rain, too much phenomyces.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I wish that conditions were perfect.
Yeah.
Like what is the deal there? Other acres in drier areas seeing 30 to 35. Well, thanks, Judy, for coming on and keep informing us here. I want to share the results of our infamous poll. How is your canola looking? See, market data coming in here for real. You guys got your fancy machines there and market data, this and that.
Mm-hmm.
I got real live farmers saying that 18% said better than I thought canola. 6% about the same. Half of them, though, over half are saying a few bushels less. 18% are saying a lot less, and 6% are not growing canola. But Dave, do you want to put a number on it? And this will live forever on the internet. Whatever you say, right or wrong, we'll know soon.
Are you talking a production crop size?
Yep.
Oh, well, there's two numbers. I'll tell you that. There's the numbers that Stats Canada is going to say that's going to be out there, which the market will trade. And then there's the numbers that Todd and I think that is probably out there, which they won't trade. And that'll probably be discovered in November of 2027, right? Because it takes them that long to finally catch up.
And how did they do last year? Just so an idea, like what's the spread usually?
They're probably off by, I don't know, a couple million ton from last year. Like last year was insanely big crops and more acres than they thought. I would say the acres are higher than what StatsCan has put out there initially, but with the loss of acres, they're probably getting closer, if that makes sense. But they were going to be wrong. So they're probably by default getting closer. But if we take, just even a 40 bushel, average crop out there, you're looking at maybe 21 million ton with a bias that it's going to trend lower. That's my bias.
Mm. And Todd, you were talking about this 2 bushels off the average is 1 million tons. Can you walk us through that math and how you're seeing it?
Well, there's 20 million, 24 million acres times 2 bushels is 48 million bushels, which there's 44 bushels in a ton. So that's, rough math, you're looking at 1 million tons.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. These numbers are fun and interesting. At least give us some framework to figure out where things might go. But
no matter what Stats Canada comes out with, they're generally off, and they start adjusting in December. But and like Dave said, sometimes it's another year past that where they continue to make adjustments.
Where does the most accurate gauge of that going? I mean, you guys have been doing this. Dave's been doing this for 30 years. Todd, you probably something similar.
30.
How do you know? How do you judge it?
Well, I think the simplest way to judge it is to take a macro view of it. A couple of things that I will look at is I'll look at satellite NDVI imagery. I worked in a previous life to this. That's what I did with Geosys, was looking at satellite imagery. And that'll give you like 30,000 foot view over, whatever area you want to look at. And you can micro zone it down into actually crop zones, for example, too, right? And then historically compare that. Now, it's not 100%, correlation to yields, but it's measuring biomass. And there's always a bit of a correlation somewhat to biomass and yield production and yield potential. So that's one thing I'll look at. But the other one is just, just generally, like, you have to just follow what's going on with the weather. How much heat have we had? How much rains have we got in certain areas, right? How much fertilizer were farmers putting on? How much fertilizer was in the ground when they started? And Darren would know this from, talking to his guys. There was not a lot of fertilizer in the ground to start the season, because we had such big crops last year. And that's just not a Western Canada thing. That's global.
Darren, do you watch these numbers, or where do you get your information from, or you just listen to what Dave and Todd tell you?
For marketing, yes. As far as the fertilizer goes, yeah, that's 100% right. That last year's crop sucked a lot of goodies out of the soil. So a lot of guys were starting from zero or next to zero as far as residual nutrients in the ground. So that's an issue when fertilizer prices are where they were this spring.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more about fertilizer fuel for those that stick around, and we might even do a live USDA update with Dave, who gets so excited about watching those candlesticks go up and down. You're definitely a market geek, which I respect, totally respect. I love it. But hey, when we talked a couple weeks ago, Dave, you were saying, watch China. Watch China and what they're going to do. And then boom, we were talking yesterday. Yeah. Guess who came into the market on Friday and Monday? Now, Todd was downplaying that, but they're kind of a big deal. China's kind of a big deal.
They're a little bit of a big deal. Yeah. So the one thing, going back to last week, what I was watching for in the month of August is whether China would step in and buy canola. And I was suspicious they would, because, China has the AI intelligence and the computer intelligence to analyze. I believe they can analyze crops pretty successfully from the sky. And if they're picking up with, however they do, that this crop is not quite there, they'll step in and buy in August. And so we were talking about that last week. I was just looking for it. And then Friday, Monday, China kind of stepped in and bought, roughly 200,000 to 300,000 ton of canola. And the one thing about China is when they buy, it probably wakes up Pakistan and it wakes up Japan and Mexico and these other countries, because, it's like when India buys pulses, it wakes everybody else up.
Is there any chance China has data access to your cell phone, in which case it would know everything?
Well, there was a reason why the politicians did not take their phones to China.
Apparently, from a 60 Minutes report, years ago, I think this was like 5 years ago, they said China has 5,000 data points on everybody in North America right now. So there's probably a lot more. The technology's probably gotten better since then. They probably know very well. So, but Todd, you kind of downplayed the fact that they were buying. You were hesitant yet to really hedge all in on that.
Well, I think time will play out. You can look at all the data you want through satellite. If we get a rain this week, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I had guys that we had a rain in August. We thought the crop was potentially a lot smaller. And when the combine started rolling, I had lots of clients saying they harvested way better looking crops that didn't yield near as good. So, that satellite imagery can be a little bit misleading. I think it gives you a good starting point, but at the end of the day, it's going to come down to what our growers get for yields. And I think Dave and I have a great cross-section across the province of good growers that accurately track their yields, and they give us the honest truth on where their yields are. And from there, we can help them market. Maybe we have to pivot and be bearish. Maybe we have to pivot and be bullish. But it comes down to the data that our growers give us at the end that I think gives us an advantage over, what Stats Canada puts in print, and over our growers' competitors, which are their neighbors.
And that's why farmers that are consider themselves in the top 1% in the good old benchmarking fashion work with folks like you. I really believe that the best of the best are working with you folks, present company included. How much canola do you have priced? Is it none? Is it 1 to 10? Is it 11 to 20? and more than 20. And how fantastic is it that a year ago we had some nasty tariffs from China? Now we don't. Plus, Dave, we have electric vehicles from China. Am I living in paradise? Is Carney the fearless leader we've been waiting for all these years?
I mean, I won't get into that, I don't think. Thanks for the lead in on that one, Dan.
You won't? I'm giving it to you, man. I'm giving it to you on a silver platter. Run with it.
No
Baton,
doubt.
hand it off.
I will say I think that I think that, you know, as far as a Western Canadian farmer goes right now, that you got to be probably in the best position that you could be, all things considered. I mean, we've got full access to the US market, and we've got pretty much full access to the China market. Whereas a year ago, both were a threat. And I think moving forward that I think it's less of a concern geopolitically this year for canola. I mean, you know, wheat is a little bit of a different story, but I don't think we're going to go through that as much. If you look at, you know, China probably drew down their stocks this past year, right, with canola, and they'll do that. They'll send a message and, you know, do their tariffs and stuff, but I would think their stocks are quite low. And when you look globally at other competitive vegetable oils that are out there, they're probably looking low too. So it's probably not a year. You know, they've done their thing with the tariffs to send a message. I think we're gonna be okay with that. All the signals, just ignore whatever Trump tweets, but the signals have always been from the US that they're very welcoming of Canadian canola. The 45Z policy that came out, allowing North American feedstocks to be in there, they had ample opportunity to kick us out. They kicked out used cooking oil from China. They've tariffed Brazilian tallow from not allowing to come into there, but Canadian canola is still allowed. So I just take them as positive signals. And I think the one thing we can focus now on canola is supply, demand, and weather, and not worry about politics so much. The only thing
I was going to say, I'm glad that Carney went and kissed and made up with Z, because I don't think that's a job you or me would want. Like, that's not sort of a job description. Anyways, continue.
No, that's right. That's right. Yeah, the only geopolitical thing that could affect, you know, the canola situation is if the U.S. gives small refinery exemptions, you know, more than what was everybody thought, which means less overall demand. And it affects soybeans and canola equally. So it's not just a punishment to canola, but just to the vegetable oil market.
So take a wild guess here, where folks are at with their canola priced. How many of them have 1 to 10 bushels price, Dave, as a percentage?
65.
Oh. 50.
Oh, 50. 1 to 10, 11 to 12. More than 20. None. Okay. Oh, quite a bit.
Yeah. What does that tell you?
It tells me guys need cash flow off the combine.
Wow. Market whisperer here.
What do you think it says?
What do I think it says? My general feeling is that folks are, like, when you said 65 and I saw 50%, my initial reaction right or wrong was, hey, you know what? Folks are kind of bullish and they're kind of holding, and they haven't forward sold as much because, yeah, I just feel like farmers, you know, we had a nice fertilizer drop here and we've had a nice little rally, and I think farmers have a little bit of swagger back, thankfully.
I see 40% over probably at 15 bushel.
Yeah. Well, that's why you're doing this job and I'm only throwing darts in the dark. So
I mean, it's definitely cash flow off the combine is a bigger thing now than it was 5 years ago. So it doesn't surprise me.
The numbers are wild. Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because I was looking at some of the benchmarking numbers from M&P yesterday, and in 22, guess how many farms were profitable in that data set, which is like massive.
In 2022?
In 22, how many farms were profitable, Dave?
Well,
this is a crazy number.
I think that was the year a lot of guys had to buy contracts out, wasn't it?
No, this was probably the height of the bull market. I'm giving you a big hint here. Like, it's about as good as it gets. Because I was looking at what percentage of farms were successful in the benchmarking or profitable? Does anybody want to take a wild guess at it? Because it's a wild number. It's
No.
85%.
whoa, it was
Good one.
95%.
Wow.
And I cannot remember, but I think the worst year, I can't give you the exact number, and we'll talk about this more at the end of the month with MNP. It's so fascinating. But can you guess the worst year, which year it was, and what the percentage was? This is getting really for
2020.
$400, Alex.
2020.
It was 2024,
Okay.
and it was almost half and half. Farms were
Yeah.
profitable and not profitable.
Yeah.
And the
tariff here.
difference between the top farms and the average farms is so freaking huge. It's wild, but that's the reason we use professionals, right?
Well, the problem is the tariffs, kicked in hard, and there was no way to catch up after if you weren't ahead of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm gonna guess that a lot of those pre-sold bushels, that 15 or whatever, maybe more, might have been ones I would guess that a lot earlier in the season. They're not lately, is my feeling and feedback we get. That's back in May and June when a lot of guys were having a huge crop coming and they did not have the bin space. So I feel a lot of our guys, anyways, that I talk to, including our own farm, we moved a little bit just simply because we didn't have enough storage for a similar crop as last year. I think if guys wouldn't have done that and waited till now, they probably wouldn't bother locking any in. So I don't know if it's all cash flow, but I know some of our guys are certainly bin space handicapped as well.
Bin space,
Fair.
and it was some pretty good prices, back when canola was over $800 a ton.
Yeah, you look at this first rally. I mean, you got to have a lot of chutzpah to hold, thinking it's going to keep going, right? Like it's hard not to sell in the beginning of the rally, is it not? Like psychologically, after that much, like because everybody would be facing all of that bear market mentality, and finally it goes up, and you're just looking for a little bit of relief. Oh, I got to sell something. I'm just extrapolating here, but
Well, I mean, we had 24 million acres and a bumper crop coming in, to start the season.
fair.
That was a lot of tons. That could have been
Fair.
24 million ton out there.
But
But
record crush. We got some record crush. That's you're pretty excited about the record crush, eh?
yeah, I mean, it's nice that we get that data 5 weeks later, but so the June crush numbers just came out, and I think it was 1.17 million. And we've all known that, the potential, for this the crush to hit, 14 plus million ton is out there, but that was the first month, if you extrapolated over 12 months, that we are going to hit 14 million ton. And not that that's a surprise to most of us if we could hit that, but I think a lot of us think of pricing in context of, a crop size out there where there's 21, 22 million ton, how historically that would have affected prices, but we didn't crush 14 million ton 3, 4, 5 years ago. We were crushing 11 and a half in 21, 22. And now we're up to 14 plus. So that's a big number.
Yeah, Todd. So 14 crush and 9 exported is 23 million tons of demand. If this crop lands at 21, who's going to get rationed?
Well, the exports will get rationed because the crush margins are huge. So the exports,
Nice.
the markets, maybe Mexico, some of the third world countries.
Why are we getting this crush data late? Like, isn't that local data that we could be getting? It wouldn't be useful to the market sooner, or are we?
That is, there's that. And, when we have an export sale, like why does it take so long to get our export sales information out? That's two things.
Well, we
that
know
I
why that
thought-
is. We did a whole show on that. Did you catch that one?
No, I didn't actually. Good for you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no.
And what was the
Brian
reason
Bonnet-
you guys had? Okay.
Well, I guess technically, when you ask the question, who has the export data,
Yes.
you just follow the money a bit. And
Yes.
when the wheat board was rocking and rolling, everybody used to get it. And then who took over the ports after the wheat board?
Right. Essentially the line companies.
Yeah.
They don't want to give up their secret sales.
Well,
But but anyways, I would just say this. In the US, they get them daily, right? You get a flash sale of anything over 50,000 tons, and you know what's driving the market that day. It's actual demand, and sometimes it's unknown, which is fine. You can extrapolate who the unknown is, but um, nowadays with the big money that's being traded and out there and things need to be hedged. I look at it from a farmer's perspective. If there was a flash sale of 200,000 ton of canola to China, and a farmer maybe got convinced to sell the day before on a special, I think that's a disadvantage, lack of information for him to make a good decision to sell.
absolutely. I mean, data is power, especially for guys like you that are advising the market and whatnot, and you can infer. But everybody's healthy and well that's playing the market in the States, and they get the data right away. So I don't know if there's any good reason to keep it from any. And I know there's different organizations, excuse me, that are working to get that ratified because it's a legal decision. It's a political legal decision that could be made.
Yeah.
If only Carney would fix everything in the world, like we know he can, right, Dave?
Yes. Sure. I mean, yeah, he can fix it if he wants to.
If he wanted to, for sure.
Yep.
Darren, I'm wondering, from a farmer's perspective, you're looking at all this crush. Does that get you really excited for your market for your product, or is that on the radar? How do you view that?
I think the high crush numbers are fantastic for farmers. I'm hoping that uh, the crush continues to go up and we get more and more of that export to the States, shorting our own, carryover, I guess. And for me, I'm guessing the back of my mind, hoping that maybe in the near future we're maybe in for a bit of a price correction like we were when cereals hit the ethanol market. That's kind of what I'm hoping, and a few guys are talking about. I'm not sure if that's a thing or not, but maybe Dave or Todd would know better.
Yeah, we did a show about the biodiesel demand.
Yeah.
And I mean, all these numbers go way over my head, but Quick Dick McDick was talking about it. And the fellow from Hammond Realty, I got a brain fart here, sorry. Sean Wildman. Sean was talking about, even markets like Indonesia and stuff coming on, like, whoa, that would be big game changers. And this biodiesel plant, there's going to be a big biodiesel plant that could take millions of tons. I mean, we could be in, well, and then of course we had the infamous Robert Angelic talk about a super cycle. And let's face it, the man isn't stupid or silly by nature. He gave that prediction. What could happen here? Like, what should we have anything sold? Maybe we should just be all bull in a China shop here. I don't know.
Yeah. So the super cycle theory, I've been, we've been talking about it since November, December as well. Just obviously maybe more in house. So our guys are aware of what a commodity super cycle looks like. Yeah, I mean, you need the catalyst to push it there. It's not just going to go on its own. But I didn't see the one with Robert, but essentially, it's going to start if the catalyst of it is government spending too much money, and are they going to keep spending a lot of money, right? And so you look at even whether it's the Canadian budget, even the U.S. Deficit that they're running is insane right now, and globally they're going to keep spending money. So then you get into what's called the K-shaped economy, right? And I'm sure Robert talked about the K-shaped economy.
He did, yeah.
Anything with an asset is going to go up in value, and essentially it's just the dollars that are being devalued. So you could say it's a commodity super cycle in price, but I could also argue it's probably just a devaluation of the dollars is what's happening, but which means you see a higher price for your dollar, but you can buy less with it.
You mean people are just printing money, Dave?
Yeah.
Debasing their currencies.
Huh?
They're debasing their currencies.
Well, what are you going to do if you're the new Fed in the U.S. and you've been handing that steaming pie? I mean, talk about a rock and a hard place. So
you're gonna run the economy hot.
Are they going to raise rates today?
No. I don't know, but I think they'll keep the rates low and they're going to run the economy hot. I think they keep printing money and keep interest rates low and run the S&P high and pay back their future debt with a devalued dollar.
Well, it sounds like a Trump deal to me, and a lot of what's been going on in the world. I talked at the beginning about Trump tweets and Strait of Hormuz. Maybe a lot of people were thinking about it before that, but in the last year, it's been a big deal. And I saw somebody yesterday said there was two ships. There was two ships. Two of them got through yesterday. But it's kind of closed. So you got all these
Yeah.
big boats that go about the speed of a bicycle, literally,
Yeah.
getting cut off. I mean, Darren, you had a bit of a theory there too about why the market's shrugging everything off. At this point, it's been a year of it's closed, it's open, it's closed, it's open. I guess nobody cares anymore, Darren, or as a farmer, you probably just tune all that out, what Trump's doing.
Well, I think over time it's not new news anymore, right? It's on, it's off, it's in, it's out. I've kind of tuned out myself. I think as a farmer, I just rely on Todd for, his expert advice, and I just concentrating on growing the best crop I can grow. And that's been working for ever since we started with Todd. So we each do what we're really good at, and it makes a winning combination.
Yeah, I like that. That's really good. Well, Ryan Bonnet, who's on the call, was sharing that lots of forward progress on the export data project in the last few weeks, folks. Just FYI, and that's awesome. And hopefully
Yeah.
well, we had Marlene Borsch on it, and a
Mhm.
bunch of other John DePape and a bunch of other market pundits, and it was good. Hopefully it helped, and we should have access to that information. And it sounds like Ryan's doing the right thing. As he said it, just do the right thing.
Yeah.
So, Dave, where
I
do you
reached
want to go
out
with that
to,
now? Yeah,
oh,
go
I was
ahead.
going to say, I had reached out to Warren Kading too, who's our export
Mm.
minister, and had a chat with him about it as well. So he's aware of it.
Yeah, Warren's really, really good there.
Yeah.
So where, like, Dave, from your perspective too, how do you how do you factor in like what's going on in the world? Like
Yeah.
we're at war, major, like what 40% of the world's sulfur comes through the Strait of Hormuz. Like sulfur at the port where I was visiting my sister, I could look across the water and see it went from $60 a ton to 1,000. That stuff
Yeah.
sitting there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's it's literally insane to really try to forecast this, right? Because the manufacturers it's so expensive. Farmers can't buy it, can't afford to buy it, and they can't make money at these prices, so they're not even going to manufacture it. And that even happens. So sulfur is a big ingredient in making phos, right? Because phos is just a rock until you basically use sulfuric acid to put it in available form. So same thing with phosphorus. It's so expensive to make it right now that a lot of mines are just doing reduced production runs and stuff. So if you extrapolate that nothing has changed, that all affects the markets like 6 to 12 months out, right?
But isn't that
Because
bullish for us as hewers of wood and haulers of water, essentially in Canada, period? But and us at the food and
sure.
energy base.
Yep.
Oh, of course. Yeah, of course. Oh yeah. It's definitely it's definitely an issue for sure. Yeah. Yep.
What do you
And
see,
so,
Todd?
I can go back to Darren's comment about the crush growing. We had 24 plus million acres of canola this year, and there's potential. We have an okay crop, and we're still going to be tight at the end of the year. And as this crush keeps growing, 4 or 5 years out, how much more canola can we grow? You're going to get to the situation where guys are going to grow canola on canola, and we 25, 26 million acres. That really takes a chunk out of pulses and wheat. So then it takes you back into that commodity super cycle. It's all driven by the energy markets and the food for fuel. So I think you got 5 years potentially on this bull run.
Just to touch on the technicals here, though, too, and I drew I measured the whatever the head and shoulders there that you said might be forming. The downside there could be at former support here of 670, 680. But as long as we hold here, technically, I think we're still in for some higher highs and lower higher lows and stuff here. Not a bad trend line, not a bad channel. That's a pretty nice uptrend.
And it's supported by good fundamentals. The crush margins are huge.
Right.
But big supply, big demand. You could see supply push this price a little softer than most guys want to see, but long term, fundamentally, it should remain in an uptrend.
Yeah. Yeah, well, talk about fuel and fertilizer then a bit. I think we wanted to touch on that too, because that's a big part of what you guys do is help folks like Darren make a decision. And in fact, sometimes you send out texts, say, hey, grab some fuel at this price or fertilizer is a good price. Like, how did the summer fill go? Where are we at with fuel? Are you guys feeling secure about that? Because you got fertilizer went down, crops went up. Simple math is we both know who I'm talking about. Well, the producers say it like we're going to double our gross margin from last year.
Mm-hmm.
They had a drought, but it's like we are bullish. Things are good.
Yeah. This past year, it was really about, it looks in hindsight, it looks obvious to make those decisions. But so like when US sent that first warship over to, Iran, we were instantly like texting guys, book all your fuel right now. Like this is going to go insane. They're not sending them over there just for a vacation. So we took advantage of that. And I think like a lot of people listening would be, yeah, that makes obvious sense, but just sometimes you just don't put two and two together or you just don't get to it. Right. And so like essentially we bought all that fuel at like $1 a liter for diesel at the time. And then we had a summer reset when everybody thought the strait was going to open. And I would say prices for Super Bs were down in that 120 to 124, kind of on a reset price. And we just said, guys, fill up whatever you can for harvest here on that. I don't think that strait's getting opened. And of course it hasn't. And I think we're at about maybe $1.55, $1.60 right now for fuel.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, not nice, that's where it's at, but nice call.
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious they're going to go to war with that, right? So, but you just have to have someone tell you, I guess, or remind you, or notify you, or a lot. I'll say this: the reason why it worked for Darren and some of our clients is because farmers respond to push notifications; they don't respond to pull notifications.
Tell me more.
I mean, you have to send them a directive that this is what you need to be doing. They won't go and look for the information somewhere, or if they go look for it, it doesn't resonate as much. You have to push a notification out. If you have a web page that said, go look at my web page, Dan, you probably haven't went to my web page.
Well, I was just thinking, I want to get some push notification. I wish somebody was telling me what to do in my day. I got to put my pants on to decide what I'm going to do. How do I get messages about what to do?
Yes.
I mean, Darren, that's got to be awesome when you get a message from Dave and Todd saying, do this. And then one less thing you have to decide because I know you're doing so much.
Well, I think, I'm busy, obviously, but everybody's busy. And it seems like we're busier than we were a few years ago for some reason. But like I said before, if I can have someone like Todd looking out for our marketing, fuel, and fertilizer interests, that allows Calvin and I to farm the best we can farm and grow the best crop and concentrate on that end of things. And, that just opens up a bunch of time and make wiser decisions, get things done on time. And we don't worry too much about the other three big ones because, that's what the experts are for. And we rely on Todd for that.
So where are you at then, Darren, if I could ask, with your summer fill for fertilizer? Like where are the fertilizer numbers at and how much forward bought are you?
Yeah, we haven't pulled the pin yet on any fertilizer. We filled twice now with fuel. So in the springtime there, or before when Dave was saying around $1, I think we filled at $1.08 or something, and we did again this summer at around $1, high 20s or $1.30 or something. So we got enough till spring. So we're sitting good. Canola, we're around that 10 bushel an acre locked in. That was more for bin space on our particular situation than anything. But had we known it wasn't going to rain for 6 weeks, we probably wouldn't have locked any in. But whatever, it's fine. It'll be cash flow September contracts. It's all good. Yeah. So I think we're sitting in a good spot. Is there probably maybe as best a spot we could possibly be at this point for fertilizer, fuel, and grain. Yeah, I guess we're all wondering when we should buy fertilizer. Historically speaking, we've bought our fertilizer or locked it in from the seed of the combine. That's historically been a good time to buy. I'm not sure about this year. We'll have to chat with Todd and see what he recommends to do. Yeah, if we start locking in a little bit at these lows, but do we have to take it home or can we find a place that will store it for us? Those are other problems with pre-buying fertilizer.
Todd, no pressure, but what should we do?
Who asked that question?
Well, collective farmers,
We've been
everyone
we've
saying,
been we've been dipping our toe in on the fertilizer. Some of our guys grabbed it at 750. If they had cash flow and they had the bin space to take it and they could arrange a time where they could get it, was convenient. Had a few more guys dip in and add some more at 850 here on this when it jumped. Just with the uncertainty, uh, how much lower could it go from here? Maybe 700. Then you look at what's the worst case scenario on the upside, and that's horrible. So we've had guys dipping away to, the last purchases were around 850.
that's interesting. Yeah, and what was it last summer this time? Or I guess at its highest, it was probably almost double, hey?
It was 1400 at its highs this spring. I think last summer it was around $800.
Yeah, maybe the odd guy got a 770. Very few.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the most part, $800.
So given where it was last year and given that we're still at war, why isn't everybody snapping that up? I mean, I guess everybody's not worried about supply ish or what?
Well, so when we did get that reset there, we talked to a bunch of our guys, and initially we thought, maybe grab 25% at this price. And the reason why we were kind of initially 25% was the India urea tender just came out, and they tendered for 1.7 million ton, but they got 6.2 million ton offered to them. So that was like insane that there was 4 million extra ton of fertilizer in the market that was available, obviously, for them, right? So you sit there and go, well, that's bearish to price if there's 4 million ton looking to find a home. So we're kind of like, but we also did reset down from $1,000, right? So some of that you could argue is obviously factored in, but it was a pretty big red flag as to like, why is there so much production out there? Because it wasn't from overproduction. There was probably less production, which when you do the math on that kind of makes me bullish on grain prices if 4 million ton didn't get applied somewhere around the world. But besides that, but then since then, all the fertilizers sort of been locked up or grabbed and such. The strait got closed again. So, in India tries to make about 30 million ton of fertilizer a year, but they get all their gas from the Gulf to make it. So, last year they imported 11 million ton, the year before 6.5. So we're sitting there going, okay, if they go back to 6.5, we could be friendly fertilizer, but it looks like they're probably going to have to import a lot. So I think the bottom line on the urea situation is now you're relying on Russia and China to export to the world and the Strait of Hormuz. It's insane who we're trying to figure out and analyze where it's going to come from. Like Russia exports almost 9 million ton, China anywhere from 0 to 5 million ton, and the rest comes from the Strait.
Well, I'm glad Russia's so dependable.
So I think the way to look at it, if I was a farmer, even if it's 850 out there, for example, if you can get 850 fertilizer and 700 and what is it today? 785 canola probably hits 800 at some point again, right? That's a good hedge. You can make money on that. I typically like thinking of the 2026 crop buying the 2027 or 2026 crop buying 2027 acres. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's a nice hedge. If you want to think of it that way.
Say that again. Sorry. You like to think of what next?
So the farmer just harvested I kind of forward think. I mean, everything should be in a budget, should be in a calendar year. I get that, but most farmers are working with this crop to buy next year's crop.
Sure. Yeah.
A lot of them do, right. And so if you're selling just canola around $800 right now, and you could turn around and buy fertilizer next year for 800 and some bucks, it's a good. Last year you would have taken that big time.
Well, that's what I'm wondering, why there isn't more excitement, especially like you just look at what's going on with these major exporters and all the disruption in the world, and Russia's no small deal, and it's not going so well over there. I mean, they've got a lot of there's the infrastructure is really being bombarded now in Russia, and but it seems like our worldwide system, thankfully, is fairly robust, because it could be a lot worse.
Well, I think like Todd said, it's just countries go without. It's not that, Like, so if oil's
Okay.
up, if oil's a high price, it's just, third world countries aren't getting it. Partly why oil's hung in there's China's kind of limited their oil imports. But they can also limit exports as well, right? So you talked about infrastructure being attacked, especially in the Russia-Ukraine situation. You kind of have to, say to yourself, is that war getting closer to being over, or is it still ramping up and escalating? And the drone technology that Ukraine has developed is insane. They first started to attack ships in the Sea of Azov and essentially closing another strait now. So we have the Strait of Hormuz closed. Now we got the Kerch Strait, it's called, being closed. And that kind of supported wheat prices. But the risk and the thought was that Ukraine could develop or had the potential for these drones to go a little further, right? Which that gets them into the Black Sea ports. And if they get into the Black Sea ports, then all of a sudden now you're talking 40 to 50% of total Russian exports could get limited. And for those that follow the markets closely, like wheat is up 27, 30 cents this morning because Ukraine hit a port in the Black Sea overnight.
Wow.
Which is insane. That's insane.
Boy.
That they have that technology. That's probably 1,000 miles away. I don't know.
What happened to the guy who was going with his parade uniform in the tank, 5 years ago?
Yeah.
That was a little bit of a misstep, and it's just and it's changed the world and warfare forever. Like, I think with drone technology, but that's a whole nother episode, which I'd love to tackle. I find it infinitely fascinating, but there's only so much time to learn, and we have to make decisions. We've got 8 minutes left, folks. If you have any questions for our esteemed guests here, it's been an awesome panel. I love talking about this stuff. And Ryan, if you have any market wisdom for us, we're waiting. We'd love to hear what you think about what's been shared here. I almost dragged Ryan on, but he declined this morning. But Ryan's really good with these markets and helps a lot of folks figure this out. One thing I wanted to touch on quick too. Really, the decision, it sounded like it's easy. It's easy to do right now is just wait. And Darren was saying, well, that's kind of nice. Like, we can easily do nothing. That we're good there. But the other thing is, Dave, too, we were talking, and I just found it fascinating. I want to bring this up briefly. Is like a lot of producers aren't using services like yours and getting that market intel. And like when I listened to Darren talk, and you were saying like there's a whole swath of people that aren't really tuned into this. I guess, like, how do you operate without this? Like,
I guess I don't know how they necessarily do it, because I talk to mostly just to my clients. But I've done a lot of grower presentations and such. I just been at some golf sponsor hole events here where I kind of just sat at a hole and groups came through, and there was just a lot of growers, and there are some areas I'm not familiar with, which is nice. Got to meet a lot of new guys, and I just kind of asked them if they used anybody, and most of them said they didn't, which I was actually surprised. I thought at least they'd have maybe a few newsletters. So only 2 were bringing in newsletters. So I guess I was surprised at that. And I think sometimes it's the thing is, it's just, you don't know what you don't know. And that's what I always struggle with, even myself as an advisor. I'm always trying to find what I don't know. But when people are, thinking, do I need a guy or not? Or how have these guys done? Or that type of thing. I just encourage them to maybe reach out and talk to some of our clients, see if it would work for them. You do have to have the right fit to have an advisor, right? Like, it's not for everybody, personality wise and everything else, right? You have to have the right mindset and everything to want to have one. I got to say that, right? Because
I don't know if I could deal with you and Todd. I mean, it would be tough. Or Ryan, I have to deal with Ryan and Bonnet every day.
We're very hard to get along with. But I will say this, like I mentioned it earlier before, and the reason why it does work for guys is they respond to a push notification versus going out, finding something, sitting down with your brother or your father or your son and deciding to make a decision off of stuff you've just read. And a lot of times it's just doesn't get done. The decision doesn't happen, even though you had probably a good idea. And then a week later, it's too late. So it's, but anyways, it's my thought.
No, I appreciate that, Dave and Todd. What should we do right now? I mean, we didn't cover basis. Riley Wallace is saying, I like the accrual hedge. November 27 canola is at 747 last year. November 26 was around $100 less in August. Much easier decision to buy urea for next year if you're willing to sell 27 canola.
That's right. Yeah, we finally can probably get selling it in June. It's tough, but yeah, you can probably do some now. I think I would want to time it with the November, December 26 rally, but yeah. But like Todd said, I mean, what are the acres going to be if we get rationed?
Exactly. Like if we end up in a rationing year, maybe say the yields don't come in as expected, and where the price is even higher next June than it was this year, next April, May, when growers are making decisions about seeding, you know.
I'm going to the airport in a Denali. That's what's happening, boys.
Yeah.
Let's
Escalate.
can we
You know,
help you out with yeah, I'm going to get a gold grill and have an Escalade when I'm going on my plane to go somewhere. Can we help you out, folks, with a little bit of follow-up? This is a private poll. You might just be here for the giggles and Dave's handsome AI enhanced face.
yeah, yeah.
We don't know these days now he's in the AI cohort, if that's a real Dave or just like a Chat GPT mock-up. But
That's right.
yeah, if you want the replay, if you want Crop A Nutrition to reach out about their soil health program, you know, Darren and his crew, they're good folks. And green. Have someone reach out to me about that's grain marketing, not green marketing. Two different things. Okay, I'm not into the green marketing here. That's a new one, but it's great if you're just here for the giggles too. So take us home. Let's go around the horn. What do you think we should do? Let's get Todd and we'll get Dave's take, and then we'll get Darren's take, and maybe if we're at the top of the hour, well, why don't we hear from Todd and Darren, and then Dave? We might be right into the USDA report by then. We got 3 minutes until we want to do that live.
Sure.
How exciting is it, Ryan, that we're going to do the USDA report live here? I've never done this live on Growing the Future.
He's watching.
And Zoom.
He's watching.
Yeah, Ryan, what do you think about the USD report? What's your prediction? Let's have some friendly bets here. So, Todd, any final takeaways? Like, what should people do right now if you're a producer listening to this on the combine? What should they do? What do they do right now?
I think you just sit and wait. You're doing nothing other than maybe look at grabbing some fertilizer, some urea if you haven't. But in terms of the grain markets, I think you just sit and wait. Wheat traditionally at this time of year hits harvest pressure. It's probably going to be, it's been leaking lower. Yesterday it was down on Russia, Ukraine potentially having a ceasefire, and some negotiations on not keeping the Black Sea region open. But at the same point, today it's up on them hitting a ship. So I think at this point you do nothing on grain marketing.
I can do that. I can do that, Todd. That's wonderful. How do people get a hold of you, Todd?
Reach out to me on my cell, 306-260-3353. Send me a text.
Perfect. And Darren, what do you really enjoy about these conversations? Must give you a little bit of peace of mind with everything you got going on to have these guys watching your back, eh?
Yeah, no, it's makes life a lot easier. So yeah, we'll be doing just what Todd says. We'll be concentrating on harvesting and getting this crop off, and we'll maybe poke away at some fertilizer depending on how things go. And other than that, we're just gonna get ready to take this harvest off.
Yeah, when are you going to be sticking the header into this crop, do you think?
On our farm, we don't have any pulses in this year, so we're canola derm. So we're probably very tail end August on some of the first seeded derm.
Yeah. Well, good luck with that. Appreciate you helping out the show by having these folks on. It's been really good. Dave, you've got the live USDA report, and I guess any takeaways. What are you telling your producers to do? And you can walk us through what you're going to see on your screen there if you want.
I think it'll be maybe a minute, but I think we're comfortably, sold on what we wanted to for bin space and cash flow, bought on some fertilizer and fuel. So we're comfortable with that. We're happy to kind of be patiently riding this out. What I'm really looking forward is to see what the actual, oh yeah. So there it just triggered live. Like it just kind of go, and you could tell my eyes opened up. So So corn was 8 cents and now it's up 15, and soybeans was up 8 cents and it's up 25. Oh, 26. Okay. I think they lowered the soybean acres. That's my guess, which I thought they would lower the soybean acres down. I mentioned that to you. This is my guess, right? So
we have on the record yesterday.
Yeah. So we'll see. And then hopefully canola can respond to that. And then wheat is still at 28 cents. So it's holding flat right now, which is okay. Soybeans are drifting down to 16, but still positive 18. Anyways, that's the USDA reports. Now we'll kind of maybe get out and see what's kind of going on with that. Probably some adjustments on acres and yields. But what I would say to farmers is, you know what, volatility is your friend. Have someone to help you steer through. Like sometimes volatility doesn't mean anything. Like this, honestly, Todd and I probably wouldn't put much, stock into what happened on this report to make our long-term changes on anything right now, right? We have our bias on where we think our crop is and where we think demand will be, and we're going to stick with that right now. But you're going to have some volatility ahead in the next year. And at some point, and Todd and I know this, we're going to have to pivot from being a commodity super cycle bullish, everything to the opposite, because nothing stays high forever.
Amen. So wise.
And it may not even be the opposite. This market's, when there's volatility, can have 100, in canola, $150 a ton swings. So just knowing when enough is enough.
Well, when's the new book coming out, guys? Nothing Stays High Forever. Sounds like a good book title. Nothing Stays High Forever.
I'll do the forward. You do the rest of it.
Okay, deal. We'll split the profits.
Yes.
We could call it reversion to the mean as well. If
there you
go. Technical junkie like some of us, but been a super fun chat. I always enjoy talking about the markets. Love it that you guys do it for a living and how you help producers out. I think everybody should have this kind of guidance. There's big bucks on the line, and really what you help folks do is simplify their lives by helping make decisions. I mean, there's so many decisions to make as a producer in the modern world today. It's 50,000 decisions before breakfast.
Yeah.
So much. If you get a push notification from these guys, it's one less thing to worry about. So check out cropaidnutrition.com. We really appreciate them supporting the show and bringing on good content like this for producers. Dave, how was your enunciation on a scale of 1 to 10? Joe was wanting you to enunciate better.
I don't know if Joe is listening, but I'll have to ask him, but I had my dentures in today, so it was all good.
Hey, respect the tooth.
Yeah. Hockey.
Okay, everybody. Well, Judy Burt said great info. We didn't get the 1988 story out, though. Judy, what happened in 1988 that the audience would love to know?
Yes. Do you know? Everybody should know that if you're old enough.
Can't tell. Well, something shall remain a secret. Not the market, but something shall remain the secret. So we talked about the market, the crop size and the predictions for the fall, canola, wheat, fuel and fertilizer, and what you should do, which is gratefully nothing. Just go harvest, do your best, and good luck, everybody out there. Thanks so much. Thanks.
Hey Dan, one thing I was going to say, if guys want to just learn more information, they can look at my website, www.nccag.ca, if they want to check some stuff out.
Please. Thank you. Sorry I didn't pitch that for you, but thanks for bringing that up. So thanks, everybody. It was a wonderful conversation. Thank you for Darren making this possible. I appreciate you and the crew at Crop Aid. And thanks, Todd, for coming on again. That was nice to see you. This is so far the only time we really connect, but you guys will have to come to Convergence. I've been bugging Dave about that as well. And
I think I penciled it in.
Of course.
Yeah, of course.
It's one of the most important dates on the calendar. And then, thanks, Dave. It was fun. We're going to see you again in the cohort here at lunch, I guess.
Right on.
Thanks, everybody.